What's good, Tech fans, man? Breaking news. Georgia Tech has landed their fourth defensive lineman, man. It's been a hot week. We go back and look at last week was obviously the 4th of July. Tech ended up landing some guys, right? They got Chris Carbon, obviously, on that Friday. They got Alex Willis a few weeks ago. And they also got Freddie Wilson and beat out the Hurricanes, ACC rival, to get him. I think that's going to be an outstanding gift for Georgia Tech moving forward. And then today they land Clarke. Now, I'm not going to lie to y'all. Now, this guy right here, Anthony London Jr., this is the guy I thought they were going to target. Now, he has a top four, I think, with Georgia in there, Georgia Tech. I believe it was Rutgers and obviously another school. I ended up got an article coming out on this, but this is a guy I thought if they missed out on Clarke, they would probably go after him. He's kind of blown up in recruiting. He got Mississippi State. A lot of teams are high in on him, and he's kind of grown late into the process. But this is another name to know. Now, I don't know if Georgia Tech will add 5 defensive linemen. Obviously, they got a few edge rushers in there. That is a lot of defensive linemen to take, but now they're up to 4, so that could be it, so to say the least. But this is another guy that was on their board as well. But back to Clarke, man. Very productive campaign in the season. He played for but yeah, I'm going to go ahead and call it Osceola. Obviously, down there in Kissimmee, Florida. And they had a really good year. So, y'all, this past year, he finished with 48 tackles, 11 sacks per max preps, and he helped, obviously, Osceola reach the 6A title game. So, obviously, he's a guy that played a big impact on a team that was all about winning, you know what I'm saying, and obviously got very far into the playoffs, man. So, I definitely think this helps them out a lot. And per Andrew Ivins of 247 Sports, he's being compared to Mario Kendrick of Virginia Tech. So, that's kind of his player comparison and comp. When I watched the film, a guy that devours up space, really good hands, doesn't necessarily have that first step quickness that you usually see, but a guy that can get there. And I think just the relentless pursuit, never quitting on plays, continuing to obviously go hard, allows him to get so many sacks and there's negative plays. So, when you look at the class in its totality of 2026, no, it ain't all blue chip recruits for Georgia Tech. They got some high-end guys, obviously, but a lot of the whole defensive line is rated as a 3-star prospect. So, when you have that, you feel pretty good, and it's all about building, towards the future. And I feel like they've done that, and I think they've really nailed this class. When you look back and be like, oh, well, how did Georgia Tech do in 2026 class? I think you'll be impressed, especially with the defensive line and some of the guys they got. Because Freddie Wilson, you match him up for years to come with Derry Norris, right? And then also a Chris Carbon with an Andre Fuller in there, you know what I'm saying? And then obviously now you're throwing in this guy, Clarke. They're going to have guys that can rotate in and stay fresh throughout. And that's what you need. Teams like to run the football. Obviously, it's becoming more of a pass-happy league, especially in the ACC. But you're going to need guys that can be able to get after the rusher. Or after the passer, excuse me. And if you got a guy that's getting 11 sacks, that makes you feel good. You know what I'm saying? That makes you feel good that they can go and they can do that and they can cause havoc. And that's what Georgia Tech needs. Georgia Tech, I told y'all, Georgia Tech needs a guy that can be a star on the defensive line, whatever that may be. Now, I think Jordan Vandenberg is that guy for them, but they need somebody else besides him because he's going to get a lot of attention. This is his last year. Who's next in line? Right, Braden Manley, obviously one that's really good, Matthew Alexander, but they need a guy like coming through the pipe, like Andre Fuller or Christian Garrett. They need somebody to come down the pike and be a star this year. If Tech can get that, they're going to be dangerous moving forward. And if some of these young guys can come in and play meaningful minutes, that's going to do a lot. But I think they did really good. I'm going to give this defensive line class a B+. I will. You know what I'm saying? I think there's other areas they could have, obviously got better in, not far as these defensive line, but just overall in this class. But I think they really nailed the defensive line and the tight end room. You know what I'm saying? When you look at Nathan Gaimang, you look at, obviously, Jack Richardson, and then you look at the defensive line, I think those are 2 positions they did really good in this 2026 class. Now, we'll see how everything else pans and shapes out. The corners are really good as well. I will say that as well. I think that's the top 3, the corners, tight ends, and then the defensive line. But we'll see how everything else obviously shapes out, and who they will continue to recruit, because I think they got to still get a safety or 2 before wrapping up this class. So they're probably going to try to flip somebody there unless they bring in somebody, last minute. But that's my thoughts, man. Really good gift for Georgia Tech. I give this one like a solid B+, overall B+ for obviously the defensive lineman. But that's my thoughts. That's my reaction. The story should be coming out here pretty soon on, obviously, allyellowjackets.com.